And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. With me, I have Fair Street Book Club Hannah with me. So hello to everybody.
Hey there.
And tonight, we're actually going to be doing our Fear Street movie review. We actually, Tamara and I from Two Blur Girls podcast did our Fear Street for 1976 and also for 1994. But Hannah wasn't able to join us or anything like that the first go around or anything. Luckily, we ended up deciding to go on ahead and do 1666 tonight for give some people a chance to actually catch up with it if you guys haven't got a chance to catch up. Also to give Hannah some time to actually give us some of her thoughts and stuff like that. Tamara will be here shortly. She's just running a little behind and everything, but that's okay. She's actually part of the Two Blur Girls podcast. So let's go on ahead. With further ado, let's go on ahead and get into this. So, what's your first initial thoughts whenever it comes down to Fear Street and stuff like that? Did you feel like in 1994 that they actually captured the moments and everything that needed to be captured for it to actually feel and look like a Fear Street book slash movie that came to life?
Right. Um, I loved when the movie first started out, and the set, the mall, everything about it, I had good vibes about it. And I, I do think that they did a great job setting the overall vibe for the year 1994. I yes, things were over the top sometimes, or it's a little too much, but like that's so common, I feel like, in just film today that try to recreate a different era. You know what I mean? It's always going to go a little
Definitely.
over, but like I still enjoyed that. Some of the like music kind of seemed a little over the place at sometimes, but overall I did really like the vibe of the first movie. Um I didn't feel like it was super Fear Street. I would have loved some more Easter eggs in there, some more references, the main character's named Dina, and Dina is one of my favorite characters from the book's Wrong Number, but it's not the same Dina. And I'm like, why can't we just have like at least a character that we know from the books, something like that.
Right.
And we didn't get that at all. But that's okay. I liked the original storyline, and I think that it was paced out very well in the first book. Great kill scenes in the first book. I think all three of them, but like I was in it. I was yelling at the TV, like, oh my God, like the head through the bread slicer and stuff. Like I was all about it. Um, but I saw, yeah, I liked the cast for the most part. Unfortunately, the main character, Dina, I just have issues with her. Like consistently. I just never end up loving that character, and I don't ever love like the romance relationship between her and Sam. I just feel like the actresses just didn't have great on-screen chemistry. And
Mm,
so it just lacked that a little bit for me, with that like their relationship being such a driving force in all three of the movies, or just the storyline
right.
altogether. I just wasn't like super rooting for them. um, but I warmed up to her a little bit more, but not Dina.
You see, Tamara and I, we both liked them and everything together and stuff like that. A lot of people definitely feel the same way that you do. To be honest with you, there are
Mhm.
people out there that didn't like the chemistry between Dina and Sam at all. They felt like that was very forced and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And also too, didn't really feel like that there was any characters to really root for in this and stuff
Except
like
the ones
that.
that died. Except for all the
But
characters that die.
well, there was also
You're like,
Josh.
I would have been
Josh,
okay if Dina died, but no, Josh.
right?
Josh for sure. Like, that is a character to root for. And he played a huge part. And I loved every part that he played. He did great. That was a
He
great
definitely
character.
did a good job.
Mhm.
That kid actor definitely did what he had to do and everything.
Yeah.
He was believable to be a geek inside the '90s and everything, being downstairs doing
Loved it.
AOL, listening to Rob
Yes.
Zombie, heavy metal, and things like that. That was just that was me pretty much as a kid, as a teenager.
I
So
loved that. I loved that. I loved his little, fortress down in the basement. And it played such good every time he was there was such a great scene too. Like even at the end of 94 when Sam, and Dina are like it's the end of the movie. The end of the first movie is like one of my favorites like scenes or just things that happen is when they think it's all done, but then Sam just goes batshit crazy. And then she stabs Dina and it's just so intense. And then the whole time it's like flashing back and forth and you see Josh just playing his games or on instant messenger, whatever he's doing. And I just like, he's gonna die. Sam's gonna get him or whatever. Like it's a great scene. And I did really like just his whole vibe, and anytime they showed like his little fortress, like it always played a really cool part in the movie, I felt like.
Same here. It gave you the vibe of someone that studies horror and things and crime scenes investigations in their own town, and then also to talking to somebody that has kind of the same hobby as he does, talking about different crime scenes and investigating the scenes. Then also too, you also have him playing video games and things like that. And yes, I was actually on the edge of my seat because I'm like, oh, is he gonna die? Because of the fact that Sam winds up being possessed, and of course we see Dina struggling with her
Mm-hmm.
and everything as they're fighting. So I was wondering if Josh was gonna wind up dying, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So once I saw what they're going with Josh, I'm like, no, I can say maybe he might be safe, but at the same time, I do feel some sense of danger whenever it came down to some of his scenes, though.
Yeah. 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 I didn't think they were going to kill off that character, but I loved that there were moments where you just didn't really know. I just feel like really in most of well, yeah, I guess the first and second, there's not, the third one's so much different than the first and second,
Yeah,
but you could have predicted some of the kills or who was going to die, but sometimes I was surprised. Like I just didn't expect it, but
same here. I was expecting maybe some more of the kids actually surviving, to be honest with you,
yeah.
but at the same, because I was thinking, okay, maybe they might save the kid who was actually addicted to selling pills and stuff like that. He might actually be
Mhm.
safe, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
out of nowhere, he winds up getting an axe to the head. So that was just something that surprised me, and it was something that
Yeah.
catches you off guard because he's trying to apologize to Josh because the girl that he likes winds up dying, and at that moment, that's when he lets his guard down, and that's when he gets the axe to the head, which is really a brutal scene
It
as well.
is. It is. Some of those kill scenes, the set it I struggled in this the 78, is that the year, I think?
Yeah,
Um,
1976, I
when
think.
Cindy and, Ziggy, are getting, like, slashed next to each other, just, like, laying on the ground, but, like, the sounds and then just the acts of, like, Cindy just repeatedly, I was just like, "Okay, that's enough. That's enough chopping. This is just a little too much."
Yeah, it was a little bit of an overkill. I'm like, dude, the person's dead. Go ahead, make your
Yeah.
kill and make your exit. Jason
Mhm.
doesn't do this that long. I get what you're trying to
Exactly.
do. I get what you're trying to do, but dude, he's dead. I was even
Too much.
screaming at the TV, especially when he ends up taking the axe and killing that kid at the camp, and he's over there just wailing on his head. I'm like, dude, he's dead.
Yes.
He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I know. The killing, like, technique or something of Tommy, what do they end up calling that killer? The Nightwing killer?
I
I
just
don't know
they
what they
never
ended up
really
calling him, but it's Tommy.
right. I call him the
He
Baghead Killer or something, but
yeah, the camp killer.
right.
He is all over the place. Like he goes insane with some and then just like a slice, like just a chop your head off here. But then like that one with the kids who are in one of the like places. I don't remember which one, for capture the flag or something. You don't
Mm-hmm.
see that scene, I don't think, but it's when Nick Good, young Nick Good is like
Right.
searching and he goes into that place and there's just body limbs. Like like he chopped these bodies into pieces. I was like, You're all over the place with your killing methods here.
Right. It's like they didn't know which direction they
Unpredictable.
wanted to go. Right. Oh,
Unpredictable.
Tamara's in. Hey, Tamara.
Hello.
Hi.
I love your
Hey, Tamara, this
collection
is
in the
Hannah.
background.
Hannah, this
Hi.
is Tamara.
Thank you.
You're
Hi,
welcome.
Tamara.
I have my own little collection right here. These are all I have.
Love it. That's great.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like sometime with that 1978 thing where, you know, Tommy's wind up killing the kid and everything. Tamara and I talked about that a little bit last week. Remember where we feel like there was a little bit of an overkill? We're like, dude, he's not going anywhere. He's dead.
Because it was just like the axe just like kept going and going. I'm just like, okay, he's gone, Tommy. You can stop now. Please stop.
Move on to the next one.
Exactly.
Yes, he's a child, Tommy. He's just a child.
Oh. Yeah.
But overall, though, I thought, you know, some of the other stuff too was pretty good though as well. I mean, the opening with 9 Inch Nails, and then you also have the girl working at the bookstore, and then you have other little stores that you can remember from your childhood and stuff like that too, as being a teenager. But yeah, I do feel like with Tommy, with the kills in 1978 was a little bit all over the place, but also too, I felt like they could have actually done a little bit better with the kills, actually had meaning into why he was actually going ham on those kids as hard as he was, because there was no need for him to go that crazy on the kid, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The only thing I can remember, like whenever he did that, is just like listening to that commercial. Whenever you see that commercial about the animals and you hear the song "In the Arms of the Angels," I'm just like, why? I'm like, why?
Oh, all the kids.
Yes, all the
kids.
I was like, oh.
It's kind of interesting to think about how whoever becomes these killers is because of the curse, you know, the witch or warlock picking those names and putting them on the stone and stuff. But like, I guess in a way, people are still people and have different personalities and different like things inside of them. So what if it's just like this curse just turns whoever's name is chosen into like vamps up their craziness, but it's still that person. So they're kind of unpredictable. Like something's inside Tommy that like is making him be this kind of killer, you know, but Ruby Lane was like a blade or whatever. Like they're not all killing the same way. They're just being themselves, I guess, as murderers. I don't know. But it makes you question Tommy.
It definitely does. It really
his
does.
home life. What was his home life?
It's like
we
Tommy.
need to know.
It's like, why did you choose an axe as your weapon?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just crazy. Yeah.
It definitely was. But I did like the whole entire possession part though, where it was taking its time to build with Tommy.
Yeah.
Instead of them going straight into it. I did appreciate that part.
Same.
And everything. I know that we mentioned that too on the show though too, Tamara, last week as well. On that.
I was talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as 1666 goes, you know, at first I'm like, okay, so this is where they're going to go with it. So I'm just going to go with it. Because now you're dealing with the kids from 1994 being in the past. You know?
Right.
But, you know, I just feel like, in a sense, though, I thought maybe we might actually see Sarah Fair as an adult and everything, and going through the things that she was going through and stuff like that at that time. Having the kids in there threw me off just a little bit, but I felt like it served its purpose in a sense. But I just wanted to see, okay, maybe that they're inside these other grown-ups and everything, and they're just playing these grown-up roles and stuff like that. So that's what I played off of. But another thing, though, too, is before we get into 1666, we forgot to mention about the janitor and everything.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's okay. Baby K.
Yeah. Go back to daddy.
Yeah, I loved the introduction that the janitor in the first movie. I remember thinking like, why they keep showing this guy? Like surely he's gonna play a role later. And I loved the role he ended up playing. Is perfect.
Me too, because I was thinking at first, I'm like, okay, is this going to be like one of those one and done kind of roles where we just see the janitor and he goes away?
Mhm.
But then when you see him at the sheriff's department and then you see Josh handing him, he goes, hey man, hey, help me out. So he goes on and he gives him a paper clip to pick the lock out of the handcuffs and everything.
Yeah.
Me too.
Loved that.
I thought that scene was hilarious. I love the janitor. I love the
Me
janitor.
too. The janitor is probably one of my favorite characters on here, aside from Josh, and also too, of course, Dana and Sam is also another one of my favorites as well.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I thought the chemistry between Josh and him actually worked, where there was like a little bit of a connection there, and it plays out in 1666 as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that made me so anyways, we wind up seeing them in 1666, like I said before, and this time they're actually having to give birth to a pig and stuff like that, and then they're also talking in an English accent. It has this vibe, and with the Crucible with Winona Ryder a little bit, because of the fact that you have witches dancing in the pale moonlight, and next thing you know, they're putting them on trial for being a witch and everything. Yeah. So what did you guys think of 1666 and some of the stuff I said?
I'll let you talk first, Hannah, since I came in last.
Okay. I thought I was going to hate this one when it was announced that they were going to make like 3 parts, and then the third part was going to be in the year 1666. I was very frustrated. I was like, this is going to be awful. And it definitely, it was much better than I expected it to be. I was glad that it didn't. I wasn't sure if it was just going to be the end, like all of 1666, you know, or if we were going to go back to 94, and then if we do, how much. And so the biggest thing that got me about 1666 is it just was so long to me. Like I even watched it for a second time last night, and even watching it the second time, I was just like was picking up all these like scenes from when they're actually in the year 1666 that I was just like, this is just not necessary information. So just for my personal preference, some people are really into, you know, period horror, and that's just not my vibe. But my personal preference, I think they could have just told us the story of Sarah Fear, told us the story of 1666 in like 30 minutes, and then go to 94, and then we see the whole end play out. But it just felt to me like the 1666 version was just long. So by the time we got to where it goes 1994 part 2, I was like, oh yes. And then I was like just ready for the movie to be over by then. So I didn't enjoy all that stuff as much. I enjoyed it much more the second time I watched it. I picked up on so many more things the second time, because the first time I was just like, I can't believe this movie isn't over yet. So that's my personal opinion. What do you think, Tamara?
For me, I just thought it was interesting on how she went back to the 1666, because I was just like, it's just crazy on how it all happened again, because I thought that we was going to see Sarah Fear, but like the actual person, but not her playing as like her being Sarah Fear. So when she went back in time, it just seems like Sarah Fear was trying to tell her, you're going to reenact as me so you can see the real truth and see what's really going on. So when that happened, I was like, oh, we're finally going to see about the witch and how she became a witch and all that stuff. And then when she was around all those people, I just thought it was interesting how all of the characters in 1666 kind of looked the same as the characters from 1994 and 1978. And I'm just like, are these the descendants? Because is the witch trying to kill the descendants of the people that killed her. Like, that's what my mind when I first watched it. So that's how I thought about it. And I was like, this is interesting. Okay, there's the guy who is Tommy. There's Tommy. He's the killer in 1978. And he seems like he might be a descendant of Tommy. And then it's like, okay, what is going on? Is there a reason why the witch is just picking all these people? Is it because of their descendants from the 1666? What is this? And I was just like crazy on how, they even had stuff about people being gay at the time and what will happen if they caught you being a lesbian. They will kill you or they will hang you and say that you're a witch and everything. And I was just like, oh. So yeah, that's how I thought about it when it first started, because at first I was like, okay, her dad, we finally see their father, which I thought it was funny that he was white and Josh was black. And she was like, it was her. But I was just wondering, okay, is Josh adopted? and she's just the real daughter, and that's her adopted brother? Like, what is this? So that's what I was thinking in my mind. I'm like, okay, he's adopted. He has to be adopted because she looks mixed.
Right.
So
that's funny. Yeah, I think at first, I don't know. I didn't really love that all of the cast of 1666 were casted in the other movies, because at first I thought, oh, that's because like she's seeing the story, so her mind's just like seeing these faces of people she knows, but then but no, she doesn't know the people from the 1970s. She wasn't born yet, so she doesn't know what Tommy looked like, and she didn't know what Sadie Sink looked like. Ziggy is her name. She didn't know what those people look like. So I was like, that's not why they chose the cast. I'm like, I think they just chose that cast to save money. And I was just like, I wasn't 100% supportive of that. It's fine. Some of them did really great in that role. And then some of them was like, whew, like, I know you guys like Dina, okay, but like I don't. But specifically in 1666, I just couldn't with the accents. I'm like, you guys are trying, but
right.
Yeah, that's why you said the Crucible, because like all the bad accents.
Yeah, they're all like
because the way I see it is this: if you can pull off an English accent, do it. If you can't, don't try and force the accent. Winona Ryder. But yeah, Winona Ryder is like Keanu Reeves and Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's how bad his English accent was. He was trying to do it. He's like a surfer dude in a period in time in Dracula. So,
oh God.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
and
I'm
I
like,
also
dude,
had problems with because it's just unexplained then. It's like, why did you use this cast? And it just can't be explained. It's not because it was her vision or whatever. And then even when it would flash and like see Sarah Fear instead of Dina, you'd like see her face and she'd like say something. I'm like, that girl's great. I want to see her. Like, I would have loved to see actual Sarah Fear. But then also, if Sarah Fear was like showing this vision to Dina, then like, how did Dina see what happened when Sarah died? Like, she's dead. How do you know that they like picked up her? Like, we saw like her friends like unbury her body and like and then move it and rebury it and where it was at, and like you wouldn't have, Sarah didn't see that, she was dead. So I was just like, things aren't like 100% thought out through here, but it's okay. Still made for a good movie.
Another thing though, there's also another thing we forgot to mention though too, is at the end of 1976 as well, where 78, yeah. Thank you, Tamara.
You're welcome. Sorry.
No, it's cool. But yeah, in 1978, though, I'm not doing that right now. So sorry, my computer decided to go ahead and try and make me do something I don't want to do. So anyways, basically this is what I got. We forgot to do 1978, where basically what winds up happening is Nick Good winds up trying to do CPR on what's her name? Ziggy. And everything. And at first I'm like, okay. And then I was like, dude, she's chopped up. She can't breathe. How are you?
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you going to do CPR on this girl? She's dead, dude. She's dead.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden she just pops up. I'm like, okay. So I'm just going to go with it. She did CPR to revive her.
But the thing is like
Well,
right
the same
after
way that we. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that right after we watched 1666, we now understand why and how he was able to bring her back. Because like you said, she got stabbed like how many times? Like
over 7.
Yeah, over 7 times. And her sister, of course, is dead and gone because Tommy like literally put the
She's
axe.
literally like mashed potatoes at this point.
Pretty much, because it was just chopping her like right in the chest. I'm like, yeah, there's no way that Nick will be able to bring her back. You know, maybe he can.
He pins into that one.
Yeah, maybe he can try, but there's no way that he could do that.
No.
So he was like, okay, Ziggy, I'm in love with you, so I'm going to bring you back. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
definitely.
Now I understand, like, because I thought the same way. I'm just like, okay, she got stabbed how many times? She lost a lot of blood. How was he able to do CPR on her and brought her back?
Exactly. And then also, too, I was also thinking at the same time, I'm like, okay, so if Ziggy dies, maybe the sister winds up living, and that's the story that she's telling the kids in 1994. Once you get into the plot twist that it's actually Ziggy telling the story, you're like, okay, there's got to be something more to this than meets the eye. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what do you think of that though, Hannah, with the CPR and things like that?
Well, I didn't. Okay, so are you thinking that Nick was able to revive Ziggy through some other means, or like, are we really believing that he just did CPR to bring this stabbed victim to life?
I think that he used his magic to bring her back.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Definitely, me too.
Because that's the only way.
I thought about that. So we just didn't see it, but you think he did something.
Because it seems like he gave her, like, you know, the Snow White situation, like Snow White is just laying there and the prince came into her and gave her a kiss. That's his magic to bring her back. He kissed her and brought her back to life.
Magic CPR.
Right.
He's like, mwah, you're back.
I never thought about it. I didn't even question it. I was like, this is just as silly as believing that we can revive a drowned victim with EpiPens. I was like, this is
yeah.
I just went with it.
All right.
That's what you have to do. It's like, okay, we can't say anything about it. It's a movie.
Exactly. There's no realism in this. It's just a horror movie.
Nope. So we're just gonna go with it. Yeah.
Exactly. But no, here's another thing though too. Solomon winded up becoming my favorite character in 1666 at first.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because,
he was great.
Yeah, because all these other people are really crappy towards Sarah and towards Hannah and everything too. And I'm like, okay, so you actually have one good person out of this whole year in 1666 that is on her side. So that she can go to. I'm like, okay, I'm invested into his character. I want to see more of this character because I'm intrigued with this character. And you have motivation. When you have motivation, you have plot. When you have plot, you care about these characters and where they're going to go. And I just felt so much for Solomon and everything. I'm like, okay, you care about her. Let's see where this is going to play out. And especially when, you know, they're dancing in the pale moonlight and stuff like that. You see someone in the shadows. And I thought at first, it was actually going to be Elijah behind the woods. Because he had that vibe of, because I couldn't get with Hannah or anything like that. I'm going to go on ahead and spy on them and then rat them out the next morning.
Right. Yeah, you would think that.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm just like, that slimy son, that sneaky guy being a perv, watching two women making out. What the
He
world?
still ends up being a big
He
ass.
winds up being a
Yeah.
douche, a ball bag, anyways. But
Yeah,
you
he's
know,
still a douche. He's like, I
right.
just call him a perv. I'm like, that perv.
And
When
then
they was like,
Yeah.
who's there?
especially what he was trying to do though to them, and when they were dancing in the woods and stuff like
Mhm.
that, he just comes over there, just starts feeling up on her, and everything like he's inside
Yeah,
some
dude.
woods club or something, and just like, hey,
Yeah.
what's up? I'm just gonna
It's
go
like
on
you're
in.
not even the one who took the berries. You shouldn't be so messed up.
Exactly.
You didn't even eat a berry. Chill out.
Then also too, you also have Hannah, who's actually preacher's daughter,
Yep.
who
Mhm.
and she's also having to hide her sexuality of who she is, who she
Mhm.
really is. So that's
Mhm.
even more scary in this time as well. And then the mother, of course, is just evil as anything as well. Also,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and we've seen the outcome of that, especially when Sarah goes over there to visits her, and everything after the day after,
Mhm.
whenever they make out and everything inside the woods.
Mhm.
And then you see the mother go, "Oh, you brought her in here? That filth!" And next thing you know, she winds up throwing her out the door
Mhm.
and everything. I'm like, wow.
I was just like, why are
Wow.
you judging her so bad? Like, what in the world is going on? What did she do to you? It's like,
That's just crazy to
Mhm.
think that that's how like it was back then with just
mhm,
the pilgrimage and settlers and things. It's just like
mhm.
people are just all if you get enough people to believe something, next thing you know, you could just get hanged.
Yep. That's the
There's
good
no
old
like
Salem witchcraft.
reasoning.
Right.
Like, come on, people, think clearly.
Nope.
But it's like our fruit's going bad. It must be because these women are kissing. Kill them! Like it's just so insane.
It's like, kill the witches. It's
They
your fault.
bewitched her head. Yeah.
It's like all around wild
The
livestock.
pastor cut out kids' eyeballs, so it must be these two lesbians' fault over
Yeah.
here. They need to die.
Just kill them. We gotta hang them. Oh,
Is-
where the witches threw the dog in the well. She's tainted the water. She's a witch.
Yeah. So
like-
many brutal things in
Mm-hmm.
1666, though. That is true. I mean, when they find the dog in the well, it's awful.
cried.
And
Me too.
yes, but the chapel scene with the preacher and the kids, that is like, it's awful, but it's one of my favorite scenes of the whole series, of the whole trilogy. To be honest, it's just done really well. And it was creepy AF. So like I liked that part. So there are definitely things that I thought like brought value in 1666,
Mhm.
but there are obviously things that just could have done without. I think because I was also a little bit just confused because Solomon's like the beginning of this cult type thing that he creates, that he passes down through his descendants. It starts with him. So going in the future, it's like when someone's like been like written on the stone or whatever, because they start to like have bugs, like flies fly around them. Did you know, like every time it's like there's bugs, they're gonna be a bad guy. But like in 1666, it's so much more than that. It's like he didn't just write Cyrus Miller on the rock and then the pastor went crazy, but like, why is everybody's food rotten? Why is like there a dead dog in the well? Why did the pig eat all of the piglets? I'm just like, there is insane things happening. Like, is it really just because did Solomon really make all those things happen when he like made this deal with the devil? This is very confusing to me. I mean, it made it cool,
Right.
made it more eerie, but like not really explained.
No,
That's very true.
Yeah, because I thought it was very interesting because that scene when they went to the house, Sarah Fear saw the book and she was reading the book, and I'm like, oh, she's about to turn into the witch. In my mind, I was thinking that's how she became the witch. But all she did was just reading the spell, and that was it.
Me too. And Oh, I'm sorry. Going ahead.
No, I was just thought that you can go ahead. I just thought that
Okay.
part was interesting. I was just like,
Mhm.
okay, what happens?
Right. And here's the thing. I thought the same thing too because she mumbled a couple of things in the book
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, and then the next day everything's decayed, everything is dying, everything on this land is pretty much destroyed, and everything too. And I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, okay, just because she read that little part of the book, does that make everything
Doesn't make
decay?
all that. Yeah.
Right.
And so I was questioning a few things though too, from motives and stuff. I'm like, there's
Mhm.
not enough to go on or anything like
Right.
that. We can speculate all day long and use our imagination, which is something I appreciate from a movie, but I want a little bit of explanation as to some of the
Mhm.
stuff that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
also too, why are you going to convict a girl that just lost her dog that's in the well? Why would she kill her own
Yeah.
dog?
Exactly.
She's a witch.
I-
She's a lesbian. She's a witch. That's why.
She hates
it.
animals.
She's
She's the devil.
1666. That's what they do.
That's what we
Wait.
do. Why did you kill her? That's what's just what we do here.
That's what they did.
Kill our
She's a
own
witch.
animals. It was a sacrifice.
Right.
Yeah. She sacrificed the dog in the well. Sorry.
It is. I liked that.
Mm.
I did like that storyline where it wasn't explained, but because there were all of these things happening in Union,
Mm-hmm.
that were like bad and evil and things. Like I even liked that moment when Hannah was like, maybe I am wicked, like maybe I am a sinner, and maybe I'm causing we're causing
Right.
all of these things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so because it's not super explained, I'm glad it was there, because I could tell at the beginning of 1666 when they're in the woods and they have their little canoodling that, like, I was like, are they going to make this whole thing just about a romantic relationship between these two women? And I was angry about that, to be honest. I was just like, I just felt like we're trying too hard to be relevant by adding in this like same-sex relationship. And then we're creating an entire like storyline based off of it, and I was not happy about it. But then once 1666 moved further, and it's like they weren't really like cast out and like hung just because of their relationship. It was because they thought that they or she had some kind of evilness in her that was causing all these things to happen to the land and caused something to happen to the pastor and the kids and the food and stuff. Like it was more just that these people saw crazy things happening because someone made a deal with the devil, and then I just assumed it was her, really just because other people were like, they like, she's a troublemaker, you know. And I don't even think it necessarily had to just do with the lesbian relationship. It could have been anything that they just pinned on her for like corrupting the pastor's daughter, and then it's
Right.
like, oh, you're the evil thing that's happening, it's making all this stuff happen. So I appreciated they put that stuff in there,
Me
because
too.
I would have been mad if it was like, this is the only thing, it was all just because of this, like
Right.
I appreciated it.
Right.
You know, I was actually thinking the same thing though too, where it's like maybe Hannah feels responsible for it, and then once it was like they were in my head because next thing you know, Hannah winds up saying what I'm thinking, and you can see that there's guilt and there's conflict with her sexuality. There's that, and she's like, "Am I really the cause? Am I the root behind the things that are going on in this?" I'm like, okay, you need to stay out of my head. But
how
I'm glad
hard
they
is that
did it.
though? Because that night they had that interaction in the woods, and then that morning is when she wakes up and that's her dad. And he's all weird and crazy, and it's like, I'd be kind of freaking out too, you know?
Right. And then
Like,
of course
I
they
did
open up the
something last
Bible.
night that's kind of questionable, and now this thing's happening. Maybe I'm the reason.
Yeah, because they was dancing in the moonlight. They had berries, and she made out with Sarah. So yeah, I can see why she felt like it was her fault after that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then of course, you know, that whole entire scene, like you mentioned, Hannah, though, too, with the preacher with the eyes gouged out and everything, and then the Josh is dead and everything too, and I'm like, That scene alone was brutal, but the cosmetics and the makeup was just awesome, though.
Yeah.
It was. It
I just
really
thought it was interesting. Like, you just see, like, when they come in, you all see, like, the kids just sitting there. There's no movement, and you're just walking in, and it's like, okay, what is? I was like, oh, in my mind, I was like, oh no, they're not moving. They're not moving. I
But
only
it's
see
like
the
they're not
past.
even. I would have been like, oh no, the kids are dead.
Yeah,
But
the
then, like
pastor
30
is.
seconds later, it's like their eyes are gone. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's too much.
And what's even worse, their eyes was on the ground, and
Yeah.
he was just tapping with the, what you call it? What was that thing that he used
Some
to
kind of
gouge
hook
the?
he used,
Yeah, it was like a
Yeah.
hook when he did it. I'm just like, oh
I think
my
that like
goodness.
they could have created an entire movie off of just that pastor
Mhm.
being some kind of like villain, because that was some creepy stuff. Like,
Yeah,
Definitely.
creepy. Yeah. I mean, how did you guys, what was your ending, like, I don't know, satisfaction, or how did you feel with the twist of it being Solomon, of it being this like lineage thing of like, I sacrificed this so my family can have good fortune and we can thrive in the world? Like, how do you feel about that?
For me, I guess now I got a better understanding on why the curse didn't end, because they had Sarah Fierce's hand, and they was trying to bury it back where it belonged. But all of a sudden, when they did that, it was still happening, and the only reason why is because she really wasn't the witch. The witch was somebody else. I'm just like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand, because that was like a big twist for me. Because I'm like, hold up, Nick. It was Nick all along, and that's when all of a sudden I got that it was Agatha all along song in my head. It was just basically just changing from Agatha to Nick. It was Nick all along, and I was just like, I just felt so bad for Ziggy. I really, really did, because he was the one that did all the killings at the camp. He was the one that picked Tommy to kill those kids and her sister at the camp. And I knew Ziggy was pissed. Oh, she was pissed. But I'm glad that she was able to do what she had to do.
Me too.
Actually,
Me too as well.
I'm glad that she got the revenge on it, because I probably have been overkilled with it. But you know what? It is what it is.
But another thing, though, too, is with Nick as well. He was there for Ziggy just like how he was there for Sarah.
Yes.
And everything. He just shows up in the nick of time. It's like, pun intended. But he just shows up in the nick of time. And Super Nick. He's like, look, I understand you. I understand what you're going through. You're a misfit. I'm here for you. I love you and I want to be with you. Yeah. Same thing with Sarah in a sense, but not into the I love you thing like he was with Ziggy, but on the same kind of context and a little bit where you actually have that whole entire thing of caring for somebody.
Right.
Now, as far as the plot twist goes and everything, remember I texted you, Tamara, that night. I'm like, WTF, capital exclamation points.
Yeah,
and
I remember.
I'm like, what?
I said, I told you. I told you. I told you it was going to be a twist.
Right. And you don't, but once you see it come together, once you see the things that you missed, it adds up, because he pinned the stuff on the kids going crazy at the supermarket.
Yep.
Then he gets elected as the big sheriff.
Yep.
And also, too, there's also an emblem of the devil in everything, too, that indicates that he made the deal with the devil and everything, too, at that podium at that high school that we don't even see. And I'm like, okay, this all connects. It's all coming together. And then once you find out Ziggy called him, and they're like, wait, we got to get out of here. Here's why.
It's like, you called Nick. He is after us. What do you mean he's after us? Nick is the witch. What?
He's the warlock. What?
What? He's the one that killed my sister? What?
Like Little John, what? But yeah.
I
But
did
no,
like the janitor scene when Josh came to him and asked him to help them
Yeah.
get Nick, and he was like, "Oh, it's on," because that's when he
Yeah.
realized that Nick was the one that did all the spray painting, and it put a blame on him, and he was like, "That motherfucker." He's
Also,
like, "I gotta get him."
also too, whenever he's just
Right.
over there smoking a little roach on the porch and everything, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden you see
Yeah.
the cop car pull up, he goes, "Uncle, what are you doing?" He goes, "We're gonna kill Nick Good. Want to come?" He goes,
Yeah.
"Let me get my jacket."
I loved that.
That was like the best scene ever, because I think that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to kill Nick so bad.
Right. It's great. Very good. Very
And then I also like the offspring of gotta keep them separated as a
Yeah.
way to keep the ghost and
Mhm.
everything at bay. And I thought that was perfect. I'm like, gotta keep them separated. And then I'm like just jamming out to it. And then of course I see Gadzooks. I used to shop there as a kid. Got my Limp Bizkit t-shirt over there.
Love it.
And also
Perfect.
too, then I get a fun little fact. This is and everything too. I remember when it was so many years, like I think it was like 2 or 3 years later. I went into Gadzooks. I see panties, bras. I'm like, where's your men's clothing? Like, he goes, oh, they're in the back. There's not much of a selection anymore. I'm like, but you can get a brush for your girlfriend. I said, I don't have one of those. That was me at 17.
Oh wow. That's when they transitioned over. It's like,
Right.
oh, we're
I'm
gonna
like,
become a sex store, but everything else is back there if you want
Right.
regular stuff. They're like the Spencers or kind of thing.
Yes,
like
it's the Spencers,
Right.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know,
I
I
thought that,
just
like,
like
at
seeing
first I was like, there are several things in the Fear Street trilogy that I think once it got like pushed to Netflix, it was going to become like done through Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
So many things that they did was so similar to Stranger Things for
Yep.
me. I was like, this is Stranger Things. This is just Stranger Things. It's like we had to wait so long for a new Stranger Things series, so they just gave us this. And so I felt like that sometimes. And so then when it was like going to end in the mall, at first I was just like this is too Stranger Things. Like season 3 of Stranger Things is all in the mall. Like this is too much. But then once they get going and they're like setting up all their stuff, you know, and the music, and then you see some of the stores, I was like, no, this is the 90s. Like they did a great job of making that mall look like it was in the 90s. And
They
they
did.
had like with the black lights and everything that they did with the squirt guns and stuff. I was just like, this was done really well. I was
Mhm.
really happy about that scene.
Yeah, because I
Mhm.
was like, it just bring back memories on how it was. Like, you know,
Mhm.
excuse me. It's like I just like that. I'm just like, oh wow, look at all the clothes, look at all the memories in the malls. Like we don't see that no more. Everything is just like like you see people in the mall, but it's just like, nah. It's like all boring looking and stuff like that. And I'm just like,
This was perfect.
I want to go back to the 90s.
Yeah, the little like, you know, restaurant or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or food counter that they were like hiding behind, and they had Sam back there. Was that a pizza place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, it
Okay.
was.
That made me really happy because in almost every single Fear Street book, okay, I'm probably lying here because I haven't read all of them, but in almost all the Fear Street books I read, the kids go to Pete's Pizza. That's
Yep.
just a place in Shadyside. It is Pete's Pizza. So of course they didn't call this Pete's Pizza, but I loved that like was such a huge part of the ending, was this little like pizza area. And I loved
Mhm.
like every time they'd like slide over the counter, you know, and they kept Sam back there and stuff. It was great. So that little part made me happy, even if that wasn't intentional. I took it that way.
I'm just
I was like,
surprised that
yay,
they
something
named
for the
it.
Fear Street fans.
Yeah, because I'm surprised they didn't name it Pizza Pizza.
They should have.
Well, I wonder if that has anything to do with Little Caesars though, since their slogan is Pizza Pizza. So it might be a little bit of a conflict. It might. I don't know. But
maybe. My daughter is saying "uh-oh," so it's probably a possibility.
Okay, I'll go after.
If you hear "uh-oh, uh-oh," I'm sorry.
No, don't worry about that. But I thought that the mall scene was good and everything too. The way it was shot, it was different than Stranger Things season 3. I did feel Stranger Things vibes inside the mall itself and everything and things like that. But I definitely like the water gun idea of taking down Nick Good and spraying him with the blood and everything. I love that idea. And then of course I like whenever they bring the janitor guy, when Josh and him are having a moment, he goes, "Look, man, tell me what's really going on." He goes, "Okay." So he brings him over.
Yeah.
He's like,
I love that.
He's like, "We got a white girl tied up."
I love
that. Was so funny. She's like, like, okay.
Yeah, so many great moments in that.
Yeah.
I liked it when because I think he was with Ziggy. I think they were paired together when the cops come into the mall before the monsters and before Nick. They're like, pull the guns on him, like, hands in the air, whatever. And then I think Ziggy's like yelling at them, like, you need to get out of here. You know what you're doing. But he's like, no. Put your hands up, like, we're fine. I was just loving it. I love so many things that he did.
Yeah, he was hilarious. I loved it. But one thing I just want to try to realize, why did the ghost kill the cops? Because they didn't have her blood.
That's true.
Were they supposed to go after Dina?
Yeah.
So
good point.
The ghost killed both of the cops. So did they spray the cops?
No, because as soon as this one cop comes in, right? You see this other one of them winds up stabbing him or something, and he wasn't even wearing the blood or anything, which is crazy. So I'm like, okay, so I was thinking.
I mean, he might have been like standing in like the stream that they squirt on the ground, but like, I don't know if that's enough that would make them do that. It's possible, but
don't forget though, there was actually a blood stain on somebody's shoe, and the ghost went after that person because they had that person's blood on their shoe. So
that was Dina. Yeah. So
I guess it can't be explained, but it's a bit of a stretch.
It is. Because that's another thing I was thinking about, like in the hospital, is like, why did they kill the 2 nurses and the boy if they were going after Hannah? Because I know the nurse at the nursing station definitely wouldn't have Hannah's blood because she's at the nursing station. And I can understand the boyfriend having her blood because he was the one that brought her to the hospital. So maybe that's the reason why he got stabbed. But still, why the nurses?
Right.
That's probably like another thing. I was trying to figure that out when that happened, when that scene happened. I was like, did they have her blood on them? Like,
right. That's a good point.
Right. There's a few little questionable things that happens in this movie where these movies and everything is like, okay, you need to really go ahead and explain yourself on certain scenes, and that's one of them. Because think of it like this. You have these ghosts, you're separating them, they're even walking past the kids. So you mean to tell me, okay, so they're not going to go on ahead and hurt the kids, but yet they're going to hurt the cops who don't even have the blood or anything on them.
Yeah, because they did like a big old circle. So
right.
Like I think the first cop is confusing because I think they just like stab him or something from behind, and it's like that seems unexplained. But then the second cop, he starts shooting the guy. So I feel like they might kill you if you're like trying to kill them. Like that would make sense to me, I guess. Like a cop standing like shooting, I think is the milkman guy, just shooting him, and then the milkman guy just like turns around and kills him. Like that makes a little bit of sense to me because it's like you're being shot by this person. But the other cop didn't really make sense to me, like you said. He was just standing there.
Yeah, he was just standing there
facing them.
Yeah, he was like, they was like, here. He's like, throw me the water gun. And they push it to him, and that's when he's like, ching. I'm like, okay. That was interesting.
Yeah.
But then, I definitely like this scene, though, where they spray the blood on the ghost and everything, and then they're all killing each other.
That was so fun.
That was fun to watch.
That was fun.
Yeah. They was like, oh,
super silly, but it was fun.
Definitely.
They kill each other and they all die and they came back to life.
And they just come back.
They just regenerate after a while and everything. It's all good. And then also, too, I like how this mall connects all the way up to Solomon's Solomon's place and everything.
Yeah.
And how easily he is to actually move around and manipulate things without people even noticing him.
And that it comes out like at his house or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember I watched this with my husband last night, and the 1666. He hadn't seen the movies yet. And, when they come out at the end, they're like in this mansion. And he was like confused by it or whatever. But I'm like, look, like this is the cop's like home. Like, look how like well he lives compared to everyone else in Shady Side. Like, because they like are wealthy and they prosperous and stuff because of this witchcraft. But I thought that was so great. I really liked that. I think like
me too.
Even like Sam and Dina's like faces as they're like walking around this house because it's so extravagant really compared to anything they've seen. And that was his house. It was it was just kind of strange, Yeah. I don't think that they expected that. And I like that they added that at the end to show that like he was like benefiting from this curse and witchcraft more than just like being sheriff or something, you know what I mean? Like he was just living a really great life because of it.
Right.
Yeah. Because I thought that was really interesting as well. And just like, wow. But then I also thought that the brother was involved too, because I thought that was the brother's house, not the sheriff's house. I don't know why I didn't think it was the sheriff's house, but I just thought that was his brother's house.
I think it's in Sunnyvale. So you would have thought that, but I at least took it that. I mean, it had like the family tree.
Yeah.
Good family. So it could have been either, but I was talking, the way I was thinking about it is that I think that for me to find any credibility in this movie, I have to believe that for the good family that it passes down, that it goes to like the firstborn or something, because I just tried, the way I saw it is that the brother who was younger, because we saw him at the camp, he was a counselor, so he's a mayor of Sunnyvale and he's like living a prosperous life as well. But I think just because he's a good, but I had to believe that he didn't know anything about it, because if all these ghosts just go into dust when Nick Good was stabbed in the eye, then I have to look at it that way to know that it's just one person that it's passed through. So it was like Nick Good's like dad passed it to him, but like his brother doesn't know about it, is not a part of it, because if he was, then the curse wouldn't be over just because Nick died.
Right.
So like that's how I looked through it. I was like, it must be like a firstborn type situation.
Right, because
okay, now I get it. Now,
yeah, because it does mention the firstborn and everything, so it does make sense in that context. Yeah, and then also too, you also see another family member that's related to them after they wind up killing Nick, and then that person winds up dying. He gets run over. But I was telling Hannah this before we got started. I said they missed an opportunity when it came down to being in that mansion, because I feel like that would have been a perfect opening to have R.L. Stein being in that mansion, and these characters that he wrote about comes running up to him and trying to get him to save them and everything. And these are the characters that he wrote about, and he's actually trying to because I think that would have actually would have been pretty cool to actually see. And then, all of a sudden, R.L. Stein steps. He says, "Look, I got to get going. I don't have time for this or whatever." And next thing you know, he gets in this car. Next thing you know, he dies.
Right.
So.
Totally great.
That's an R.L.
So.
Excuse me.
No, it's okay. But yeah, R.L. Stein has actually done a couple of cameos and stuff like that in the Goosebumps series and stuff like that. So I was actually expecting it, and then when I didn't, I'm like, okay, this kind of let me down. But I'm like, okay, good is dead, so I can move on from my sadness, my infinite sadness.
Because you're probably not the only one who was thinking that, because it's like a lot of people who are around our age who used to read Goosebumps or Fear Street back in the day, that's probably what we're hoping for, to see him in that movie. And I'm like, okay, where is he? Okay, he's not here. What the heck?
Right.
I was like, oh. I'd have been happy if he was in that movie. So
me too. But yeah, then of course you get Josh and all them back again and everything, and everything's. I also like how there's actually a happy ending for Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I loved that.
Me too.
Oh, Josh, he finally got a love now. Even though his first
Queen of Darkness or something.
Yeah, his first love was like her head got in pieces. But he has another one.
I mean, can we talk about that for a second? Okay, I know we're not talking about that movie, but that is a gripe that I have. Is like, I loved the friendship between the three, like Simon, I think, and Kate, is that her name?
Simon and Kate, yeah.
And then Dina, they're kind of friends. But like, how did these people get to like be connected? So a cheerleader is like best friends with someone on the marching band, and she's a cheerleader, but she's like the drug dealer of the school. I was so confused. I'm like, these things are not lining up here. Isn't she like valedictorian or something?
Yeah. It's like, always the smart ones. It's always
she's all over the place. Like, she's Miss Popular, she's the smart kid, and she's the druggie. I don't get it. It's like,
it's always the smart ones back there. Back in the day, it's always the smart ones, the druggie, the cheerleader, and
yep. At least in my school. Yep.
Yeah. She was all
that's how she gets away with it. No one would suspect that she's the one dealing all the pills to the kids in school.
Exactly.
But yet they were the ones that killed all the people.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick. Nice try, Nick. Nice try.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought the way they ended it was perfect. I thought having Josh have somebody now they can connect with, and then of course you have Dina driving off to see Sam and spending time with her and stuff like that, and then it just ends on that note where basically it uncovers all the goods, like every single thing down the line, and ratting him out on who he actually is, and that spell is actually broken, so now they don't have to worry about their town being cursed or supposedly being cursed, because there's other stuff that goes on in Shadeside besides that kind of stuff, but still. But yeah, overall, I think there's some pros and some cons with this as well. But here's the thing, for our audience, our audio listeners, or our video listeners, and stuff like that, if you're a fan of Fear Street, you might put away some of the negativities and stuff like that because you know what you're expecting in a sense. But for someone that isn't into the Fear Street novels, someone that's not into this world yet, and reading your first book, you're not going to end up having the nostalgia factor that we have and we appreciate from it. So therefore, it's going to take you out of it, and there comes that negativity of this may not be for me and stuff like that. Because we are glued, we're enticed into what R.L. Stein has done and everything. And here's the thing, I've seen some bad reviews lately and stuff like that where people are just trashing it. I'm like, and not even giving an explanation of why they don't like it. It's like two kids arguing.
Yeah, you went in with a certain idea.
Yeah.
You're not going to give it a chance, you know?
Right.
Because I guess it's like it might have the newer generation wouldn't probably understand. I guess they're like Generation Z or something like that. They probably wouldn't understand unless, like you said, if they read the books. Because if they don't read the books, and they just watched the movie, they probably wouldn't get it. You just have to really get into R.L. Stein books so that you can understand the whole situation. It's not going to be big, like it's just the name Fear Street. Like, again, for me, when I was in high school, I only read the third Evil and the second Evil. I didn't even have a chance to read the first Evil. I don't know why, but I was just weird back in the day. Okay. And I also have the stepsister too. So I love Fear Street and I wish I had more books, but I really recommend people, Generation Z, millennials, maybe boomers, I don't know, but read the books because they're really, really good.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say that so my husband watched them with me. He has not read, well, he's read a couple of Fear Street, but only because of me. He was into Goosebumps as a kid, so he has that like tie to R.L. Stein, but he's just a horror movie lover. And then the first time I watched them, the 3 movies, I watched them with my best friend. She's never read any Fear Street or Goosebumps books. That's not something from her childhood. She still never read them, but she liked horror movies and she watched them all with me and we had a great time. Like we were laughing, we were cringing at the horror scenes, like the blood scenes. Like she loved it. I mean, she might have had some issues like with the third one, like it seemed long or this or some goofy things here. Like that's unbelievable, but that's every horror movie. Like that's what's so great about horror, you know? And so I think that there will be a lot of horror movie and television lovers who could watch these movies and enjoy them, even if they've never read the books. I would still suggest, like, I would recommend these movies to some of my friends who are really into just fun horror movies. You know what I mean? Teen slashers, or they liked the show Scream Queens, you know, or they like just some of the older Halloween or the Halloween movies and, you know, Freddy and Scream. And just there were even some things in the movies that I was like, that's Scream. You know what I'm saying? Like horror movie lovers will enjoy these, even if they don't read the books, I think. And if they criticize them like to the bone, then that's just the kind of movie critic that they are. I don't know. Like some people just like to watch movies to tear them apart. And I'm like, you do you, bro. But like, I think that people could love these, even if they haven't read them. But hopefully people might watch them who haven't read the books and it will like, you know, get them excited to go out and find the book somewhere and start reading them. Or maybe they've read them when they were in middle school and they've got them, they still have them like in a trunk up in the attic, and now they're like, I gotta get those books back out and read them. Like I love that that's what these movies are doing.
Yeah,
me too. There's a huge appreciation for it and stuff like that. Tamara, I know that there was something that you wanted to ask Hannah last week. I know that you wrote that down in your notes. Or
I wanted to know where you got your books from.
Yeah. Well, excuse me. I had mentioned this to John, but it's very hard to find books right now. So I started my podcast over 2 years ago when they announced that they were making these movies. So the movies were announced. I knew that Gillian Jacobs was going to be in one of them. She ended up playing a completely different role than I thought she would. So I was like, I want to watch those. And I was like, I'm going to get these books and read them and do podcasts leading up to these movies coming out. I had never read them as a kid and I didn't own any of them. Well, that was over 2 years ago. The movies, even if they were announced, not very many people knew that these movies were coming out yet. So I was getting them on like thriftbooks.com or discoverbooks.com or, you know, you might find them on eBay or something. Or I had friends who knew, like online friends who knew I was like starting this, like to read these. And if they'd see them at like their half price bookstores or Goodwill or something, they'd buy them for me and like mail them to me. Like that's how I was getting them. But, you know, and I'd find them on Thrift Books or Discover Books or something, usually like $4 or $5 bucks a book. Some books maybe a little higher if they're more rare, but I never paid more than like $7 or $8 for a book. Well, right now, since the movies have come out, I mean, you're gonna pay at least like $20 for one of the books.
I
or more. Some of them on eBay, they'll sell them for $55, $60. And I'm just like, oh my God. So sadly, and then the places I did buy them, like I mentioned, Thrift Books, and I think Discovery Books is one of them, or Book Outlet. They just don't even have them on those sites. They are just wiped clean, They're really the only place that I think people are going to be able to buy them right now is through eBay or some other site that people are reselling their books. And unfortunately, those people are just trying to make a penny and they're going to mark them up. So
Yeah, you're right. Because
I'm a little salty about it.
yeah,
I am
because
too.
back in the day, I paid $2.98 for the third evil, right?
There you go.
$169 for the first evil.
The third evil, that one you just showed, I just bought that on eBay for, I think I got it for like $14 with shipping. I was like, okay, I can justify spending that much because I have the first and second, but I don't have the third.
Yeah.
And I haven't even read the first and second, but I was like, I have to have all three. And so I found it on eBay. And it was like, and I got the bid or whatever was like $14. And I was like, okay, I can justify that. But
yeah.
I put a bid on another one and I kept getting outbid. And the last time I checked, it was like over $60. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I am not spending that much money for this book as badly as I want it.
I just find like people are crazy selling these books for that much. I'm just like, sheesh. I guess I can understand why you want to sell it that much, but that's too much. I'm not paying that much for a book.
I am not doing it.
Right.
No, even though I do for comics, but that's
right.
That's a different story.
I spend too much money on books as it is. I'm like,
same.
So
same as well.
I got to dial it back. But good luck to you. I hope you can find some, but you're gonna have to work for it. Like I spent like an hour, I think, searching all kinds of sites to find at least one book with a good deal. So
yeah, I'm gonna search for the first and second evil. If I have the second evil, I have to go back and look for it. But I know I found the third evil and Stepsisters too. So if I can't find the second evil, I have to get first and second evil so I can read it in order.
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to.
All right. So with that being said, Hannah, where can everybody reach you at if they want to follow you?
Sure. I just recently made an Instagram account for my podcast. Like I said, I've had the show for over 2 years, but I just made an Instagram so I can connect with people. So it's just at Fear Street Book Club. And then my podcast is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But yeah, definitely reach out to me on Instagram. I'm loving meeting people and talking about Fear Street. So that's where you can find me.
All right. And Tamara, where can everybody reach you at? You and Tamika.
You can reach us at Two Blerd Girls podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach us at Two Blerd Girls podcast on Facebook, Blerd Two Girls on Twitter, and Two Blerd Girls _ podcast on Instagram. And we're also going to be you can listen to us on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or any other places that, supports podcast people.
Okay. And guys, another thing though too is go on ahead and give us a review on Good Pods. Good Pods is so much better and so much smoother than Apple Podcasts, to be honest with you. You can rate each episode, give us a 5-star review on each episode, or tell us what you didn't like about a certain episode and stuff like that, and we can actually interact with you that way though too, and comment and all that other good stuff. Good Pods is definitely a great way to interact with fans and also to introduce other people to new podcasts. You can also share certain episodes and stuff like that. It's a much smoother, cleaner app than Apple Podcasts, and I strongly recommend it for anybody that's doing podcasting, or if you listen to podcasts, I strongly recommend that as well. Another thing too is if you guys want to, go on ahead and follow us at Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite on Facebook and on Instagram, and also too on Pinterest as well. And then, of course, if you guys want to go on ahead and donate to the page, how do you do that? You just go on ahead, head over to GoFundMe.com /Movie Lovers Unite podcast, and hit that donate button if you want to go ahead and donate $5 to $10 to us, just to keep the lights here on at Movie Lovers Unite. You guys don't have to if you don't want to. A simple share goes a long way. So smash that share button, smash that like button. Also, too, if you want to reach out to us and you're a sponsor, just go on ahead and email me at movieloversunite@gmail.com. And then, of course, for all your entertainment needs and wants, go to movieloversunite.com. And then you can follow me underneath Movie Lovers Unit on Twitter. And, of course, on stereo as well, because we do a couple of episodes on stereo from time to time. And then tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific Time, Charlie will be back on the show with me, and we're going to do our Fast and the Furious 7. This is actually part of our Furious Fridays episodes of us reviewing the Fast and the Furious franchise. We're almost done. We only have 2 more after this, and that'll be the end of the Fast and the Furious franchise. We just dropped our Rambo review for Rainbow 4, and we're wrapping that up soon too. So go on ahead, check us out wherever you guys get your podcast from, and it's always a pleasure to have you on it, Tamara, as well. And then thank you, Hannah, for joining me, and I hope that we collab in the future as well.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome anytime. It's been a pleasure. And everybody, always until next time, it's been real. It's been fun. I can't wait to do this again. And bye-bye.
Bye.
See ya.